This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Want to keep your personal number private but still stay connected? With Line 2, you can get a second phone line right on your device with a super simple app and no need for another phone. Whether it's for online shopping, dating, or shielding your main number from spam, Line 2 is an easy way to manage it all. Ready for peace of mind without breaking the bank? Call, text, block, and more for only $9.99. Get started with line2.com/audio or download Line 2 in any app store today. Line 2, your second line simplified.
Fan. Just in case you missed it, it's the top 5 sports talkers of the day. Now, it's time for Dan Barreiro's Top 5 at 5. Brought to you by Gutter Helmet of Minnesota. Never clean your gutters again. Learn more at gutterhelmetmn.com.
Longtime texter Shane from Lafayette, Louisiana. We had a bunch of players who made the Pro Bowl, the most out of the league, 2 or 3 years in a row, but we weren't getting victories on the field, referring to the Pecos River discussion. The fact is they were winning on the field in the regular season. The year after, what Guardsy mentioned, where we lost in the conference title game to Washington 17-10, the Vikings finished 11-5, and then in 89 they finished 10-6. And both years, unfortunately, they got clobbered in the playoffs. They won a playoff game against the Rams in 88, and then got killed in the rematch against the 49ers, 34-9. Then the next year, finished first in the division at 10-6 and got destroyed again by the 49ers, 41-13. That was in the divisional round. So the problem wasn't that they weren't winning in the regular season. The problem was there was no payoff. In fairness, looking back on it, and I remember talking to Bernsey about this, it's like, well, when you're losing, they shouldn't have been humiliated like they were in those 2 games, but because they weren't competitive in either one of them. But if you're playing against the 49ers and with quarterbacks like Joe Montana and Steve Young, then chances are you're going to be at a disadvantage. I mean, talent does matter. But then Pecos River, as you say, that was in the summer of 1990, and then they go 6-10, and 91 they go 8-8. They make the change at coach. And in Denny's first year, mainly because of a really good defense, if you recall, not much offense, they won 11-5 in a good reversal to win the division. So winning games wasn't the problem. It was there wasn't much of a payoff, and there was a lot of acrimony involved regarding lots of different stories.
So Minnesota did have the screenshot of the Suhan story, as you mentioned, where in there he has it. In the paragraph, it says, retreat at which Fortune 500 executives spend $2,000 a head on attitude adjustment. So if you're thinking, so $2,000 a person, basically. Person.
Okay, I got you.
Now, do you get a discount if you bring the whole?
Interesting. Yeah, the whole group.
Because just doing simple, quick math, I mean, it's $100,000 for the team, basically, if you just brought the 53-man roster. When you bring coaches and staffs, and I know we don't have quite as many staff members as we do now, but that had to be 80 people?
At least,
100
maybe
people?
more. Yeah, depending. I don't know how many other support people or like assistant general manager, whatever. I mean, personnel people.
Former Gopher tweeted both of us that in Brewster's first year, they did the first week of training camp at St. John's. Seems similar.
Similar, maybe not quite the same because I don't think. I mean, St. John's. I don't think. I mean, that's not a retreat exactly.
No.
One could say, but it's interesting nevertheless.
I'm sure Gilardi was impressed with what he saw.
I'm sure.
Guy won 1,000 games. I'm sure he was impressed when Brew rolled up to Collegeville.
651 guy writes, I worked at Lutheran Brotherhood in the early 90s and did the same thing. It was called Pecos North. There were a lot of good feelings and camaraderie, which lasted literally a week. So a similar result to the Vikings.
Have you ever done like a trust retreat or at any of your jobs or teams that you were on or anything like that? No, I remember a lot of them growing up.
I actually, the last retreat I remember going on was when, was college, was when the decision was made, and it wasn't because there was dissension. They just thought it'd be a good thing. It was the year I was editor of the paper. So they set us up at a retreat like about, 30 or 40 miles outside Bloomington, Indiana. And this huge house, basically, massive place. It was a hell of a complex is what it was. But there weren't any exercises. The idea was maybe you guys can meet and figure out what your plans are and your goals are for the year in a spot away from the newsroom a little bit.
Yeah.
It was fine. It actually worked out fine.
I think more often than not, they're productive. And
I think a lot of it is expectations need to be realistic. That you can't necessarily think you're going to reinvent the wheel. Think smaller. Stay away from the jargon. And just try to, have good conversations about what you're trying to get accomplished.
I can't believe Lori Fisher has never made us go on like a Fox 9 retreat.
That's right.
Doesn't she seem like right in the Pecos River?
That's it. I bet you Kessler's been on a retreat or two.
Well, that he probably can't talk about.
That may be true also.
That was 1990 for the Vikings. 2025 Minnesota Vikings season. The journey will begin at Soldier Field.
How about that?
Monday Night Football against your Chicago Bears. September 8th is when the Vikings will open the 2025 season. VikingsTerritory.com, among others.
That's not that far off.
I know.
It really isn't.
We're within 100 days of the State Fair. I saw somebody tweet that out yesterday.
Think about it.
I do, a lot. I got to get the schedule going. And so people have put together with all the various leaks the entire Vikings schedule. I can read it if you want.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's no other sport in which I think we could do this with a straight face.
Week 1 at the Bears, Monday Night Football. Home opener week 2
Wait a minute, slow down. Week 1 at Bears.
Yep.
L.
Wow. Interesting.
I'm going to try to get a record going.
Okay.
All right.
So we're 0-1 hosting the Falcons week 2.
1-1.
The Bengals come here week 3.
2-1.
We go to Ireland to play the Steelers week 4.
3-1.
We then head to London to take on the Browns.
4-1.
Thankfully, we get a bye. After moving to Europe for 2 weeks, we get a bye. Come back week 7 to host the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles.
5-1.
5-2.
I already had 2 losses?
Well, you have us losing to the Bears week 1.
But that was the only loss I had.
Oh, so you have we're going to beat the Eagles.
Yeah, I got us beating the Eagles. Yeah,
sorry.
You assumed
I'm
otherwise.
the idiot.
So we'd be 5-1 if we beat the Eagles.
Then short week Thursday Night Football against Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers.
Is that here or there?
There.
5-2.
Come back for the first of 2 meetings. Well, actually, we go to Detroit after that.
5-3.
5-3 to host the Baltimore Ravens week 10.
Ooh. I'm going to go 6-3.
Ooh, that'll be a big game.
Yeah.
Then we host the Bears.
7-3.
So we get to split with Chicago.
Yeah.
At Green Bay.
7-4.
At Seattle, of course.
8-4.
We're going to beat Sam Darnold.
Yes.
Host the Commanders.
Ooh.
It's kind of a tough schedule.
I'm going to say, Vic, it is a tough schedule. 9-4.
At the Cowboys, week 15.
Cowboys are so weird.
Mm-hmm.
I got us 9-4 right there. I'm going to say we're going to win 10-4.
At the New York Giants, week 16.
11-4.
Short week for Christmas Day, hosting the Detroit Lions.
12-4.
And then we wrap it up at home against the Green Bay Packers.
Here?
Yeah.
13-4.
Another 13-4.
Another 13-4 season, and then first round flame out again in the postseason.
Well, actually, we were 14-3 last year, right?
Were we?
Yeah, I think so. Because we lost the 2.
I don't even remember.
Rams, Lions, and then we lost to the Lions the last week of the regular season.
Well, to be honest,
win an in game.
13-4 with that schedule, I don't know where we rank. It feels hard.
It does feel hard
when you lay it out that way. But,
it does feel hard.
It also feels interesting. I mean, there's a lot of good story angles.
Great home schedule.
A lot of good home. Yeah, really good home schedule. I mean, there's a lot to look forward to, I think.
Speaking of looking forward to it, that's the unofficial tally. The actual schedule comes out at 7 o'clock tonight. The homies, Max and Parker from The Cage tonight, will be previewing Game 5 of the Wolves-Warriors series. But at 7 o'clock, they will start out mentioning the schedule, the official schedule, and any other nuggets that we glean from that schedule. So that's coming up tonight with the homies. The Twins won Game 1 of the Orioles doubleheader today. Then we're up big, then got down, and then a Roger Clemens kid hit a 3-run dong in the 8th inning.
So we had 3-run dongs in both games.
Did we have one
Because
earlier
Vasquez
today?
had one in the first game, yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was a 3-run dong for Cody. He's got 4 runs batted in on the afternoon. And right now, in the top of the 9th, the Twins lead Baltimore 8-6. Finding ways
So it'll be 10 in a row for Mike Yo if we win the second one, right?
Or Rocco.
Or Rocco, you're right, Rocco. Well, I have to text. This might be a good day to text him after the game. Say, Rocco, congrats, man. Let's see if we can get you on sometime.
A lot of good stories to talk about right now.
For sure, yeah.
So, they've won 9 in a row and are still in 4th place in the division because...
Good division.
Now, Cleveland and Kansas City did lose yesterday, so we picked up I get, a game and a half on them,
Yes.
depending on what happens today. But 7-3, 6-4, 7-3 are the teams in front of us right now. In their last 10, the Twins are 9-1 because they've won 9 in a row. So hopefully they can put this one to bed as well.
Are you worried about what Brent from Invergrove Heights wrote? JJ will have a devastating knee injury week 1 at Terrible Soldier Field. We'll lose our quarterback.
You know why I'm not that worried about it?
Why is that?
Because they signed Max Brosmer as an undrafted rookie free
They're
agent.
raving about him. Did you see the Seifert story?
Yes. None of it surprises me.
No,
You know my affinity for that kid.
Well, no, I actually don't disagree with you on that. I like the way he throws. I think that was a good investment. Who knows where it ends, but the local angle is always wonderful. We like it. But it looks like he can throw a little bit. So let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see where it goes.
Don't get hurt, JJ. That's all I'm saying. Don't get hurt. Don't give Max Brosmer the ball.
We're eliminating the possibility that in training camp, Brosmer becomes the story because of how good he looks.
Too many politics in the starting quarterback room.
Well, there actually might be.
Yeah.
There's certain things might be we got to make sure it's all about JJ, correct?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Whether it should be or not.
The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to win bonus bucks. It is our national cash contest. Final keyword of the night is bank. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword bank.
John, the mail carrier, writes, listening to my predictions based on the schedule you laid out. Thanks, PA. Maybe I do have some PA in me after all. Who's to say? What did I say? 13-4?
You did.
Yeah, that would actually be a good record with this schedule. Is it 7 nationally televised games? Is that the right number?
Let me look here.
Real quick.
Monday night, Sunday night, Thursday night, Christmas, and then you got the 2 London.
Well,
and
those
England.
are national.
Yeah, those will be big. So that's 6 for sure.
Yeah. I see. I'm not a big fan of the European. I don't like games that early. I do not enjoy it. I really don't. Do you? It doesn't. I understand why they're doing it, but I don't. It doesn't do much for me.
I don't hate it. I'm fine either way.
Right.
I'm fine either way. I miss Sunday sermons those days.
Well,
it kind of messes with my Sunday routine.
Yeah, your routine.
With thousands of others around the country and nation.
No question about that. All right. So Blakemore's coming in. Kessler will be in studio about 5:30 tonight.
He's just wearing Muss out over here.
I see that.
Yeah.
It looks like poor Muss. It looks like he desperately
needs
wants
a song
to
to play.
find a reason to leave the area.
He needs to give away some Morgan Wallen tickets or something.
That's the answer. We've got a Pete Rose postscript I want to get to that I thought was quite telling regarding the news that Major League Baseball's commissioner broke yesterday. Stay tuned for that, and then Kessler, bottom of the hour.
Neck.
So the Major League Baseball commissioner, the much maligned Rob Manfred, made a ruling or announced a ruling yesterday that if you're a former Major League Baseball player and you are on the ineligible list and you're dead, then you're off that list. That upon your dying, that person will no longer be on that sort of to an extent that your position on the ineligible list expires on that occasion, which means that the door has been opened to the possibility of Pete Rose making the Baseball Hall of Fame at last. Now, there are people who said, well, it's almost like mean-spirited to do it after he has passed on. What impact? What are you really saying by doing it now? Couldn't you have done this before he passed away? That's a debate for another day. The mechanism by which he could make the Hall of Fame would be through something called the Classic Baseball Era Committee. And they don't meet, the next time they meet is until December of 2027. So this is a ways off. That's when they meet next to evaluate players who made their greatest impact according to The Athletic, before 1980. So it could happen, but it's not going to happen quickly because that's the way this mechanism works. That's the bureaucracy. Why they don't meet again until December 2027, I have absolutely no idea, which means the earliest then he could be inducted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown would be the summer of 2028, the summer of 2028, which is a ways off and will be, of course, when President Trump will be going after a third term as president of the United States. But I digress. So The Athletic says, you know what we're going to do? We're going to get a hold of a bunch of Hall of Famers from several eras to just get their reaction to this news and their own opinion on, you know, whether they would vote for Pete Rose. And I thought a couple of the answers were quite interesting. I'll give you an example. They contact Jim Palmer, who was a member, one of the great pitchers of all time, the former Baltimore Orioles pitcher who pitched starting in the mid-'60s and I think wrapped things up in 84. He's a member of the class of 1990 Baseball Hall of Fame. And listen to what Palmer said. He talks about a conversation that he had with Rose. He said, I told him, if you profess to love the game as much as you professed it over the years, and the commissioner, which was Bart Giamatti, gives you a chance to be reinstated and to apologize and admit you made a mistake, if you really love the game as much as you profess to, you grovel, hands and knees, whatever. And I said, well, why didn't you do that? And he really didn't have an answer, Palmer says. He talks about whether he's going to get a fair shake or not. It might depend on, you know, who's on the committee. Maybe the voting might be more liberal with younger Hall of Famers. But if Bench is on the committee, again, that's what's so great about the committee. You have enough people that you really know the game and know the history of the game where he's going to get a fair shake. And he admits, he said, I would listen to what other people say and then I would make up my mind. But he makes that interesting point about his own conversation with Rose, and the answer was not particularly satisfactory about why not just, you know, take your medicine. And you had when you were given the opportunity to do exactly that. Then there are comments from Mike Schmidt, class of 1995, all-time great third baseman with the Philadelphia Phillies. In fact, he was a teammate with Rose with the Phillies from 79 to 83. And he says, I think the Rose question is always going to be divided 50-50. He says, I see both sides. I see that he squandered so many opportunities to change his life and go forward and do what Bud Selig asked him to do. That was in a then secret 2002 meeting that was arranged by Joe Schmidt, along with Mike Schmidt, and the late Joe Morgan. Schmidt goes on to say there wasn't remorse there. He didn't show any atonement for his admission to betting on baseball, but at the same time, he is, of course, one of the greatest players in the history of the game. They contact Jimmy Leyland, the manager, class of 2024. He says, I don't really know the answer. I have to think about it long and hard. Jim Cott, longtime contributor on many fan shows with Chad and Barreiro show and with us occasionally as well, class of 2022, pitched with several teams, of course, including the Minnesota Twins. I talked to him a lot. He would not want this. He's been quoted as saying that I think where baseball missed the boat was years ago. They should have brought him into the office and said, look, we want you to go around to spring training and counsel kids on the dangers of gambling. And then while you're there, spend a couple of days, teach them a little baseball. For Pete, it was nothing about the Hall of Fame. It was not being involved in the game, which was the most painful thing for him. He had such a high baseball IQ. I look at some of the things going on today and the way the game is played. I mean, he had a master's degree in the fundamentals. He said, if I were on that committee, the first question would be, do we just look at Pete for what he did on the baseball field? And if that's the case, then it becomes a no-brainer. But you can only vote for 3. So what do you do about, say, Tommy John and Dale Murphy, guys like this who've never been accused of anything like that on the field? Then it's going to, he says, hurt their cases. He also says that he had a conversation with Rose for ESPN at spring training in 1989 as the betting scandal was emerging. And according to Cott, before we go on live, I said, I want to ask you a question. Did you ever bet on baseball? He said, you know we've been to the horse track, and I knew he bet on football every Sunday afternoon, but he said, I never bet on baseball. I said, well, I want to ask you that because if you did, and I knew he had problems with the bookies, I said, if you just admitted, hey, I had a problem. Baseball loves you. They want to forgive you, but he would just not admit it. And then later, he did admit it and started signing memorabilia that said he bet on baseball. So he started to lose respect of his teammates. That's where he kind of shot himself in the foot. Let me see if there's one other one. Yeah, I guess those are the main ones. But I like the answers because I think they're really honest. And many of them didn't rule out that they would vote for him. But they remind us that the real tragedy is the number of opportunities that Rose had by taking a different approach to having this long been resolved a long time ago. And what can't be forgotten is he chose not to. He chose first to lie. And even then, when he was kind of willing to admit it, it was under a very different manner, very different tone than he had said he was going to take. It was almost cavalier. It was almost like back of the hand. It was almost like I really have nothing to apologize for or to explain. And it's why, for me all along, I have not lost all that much sleep over the idea that to this point, even before he passed away, he was not in the Baseball Hall of Fame. He has several times over the course of the scandal, so to speak, and many years after, made his own bed. I don't understand why other people should be in sort of, running interference for him. Why is it that they're the ones who try to be more contrite and be more understanding and be more professional than he ever was? If he was unable to take those steps himself, why should people carry the water for him that they do? It makes absolutely no sense to me. I've said yesterday, I'm fine if I let whatever the process is, I'll respect it. If he gets in, that's fine. I've never had any problem with that, but I continue to be rather flummoxed about why other people are trying so much harder than Pete Rose ever did to get this thing resolved, because it could have been resolved a long, long time ago. Let's do this. Let's pause and chat with Pat Kessler. Lots to get to with Special K. Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 646-86. I'm assuming a few of you might already be on your way to Target Center. Don't forget, it's a late start tonight again, right here on the Fan. Howlin' with the Homies will start as soon as we're done at 6:30, I'm told. And it'll be a combo platter. It's going to be a little bit of Viking schedule talk, and then there'll also be plenty previewing the Wolves' opportunity to end this nonsense tonight without having to worry about going all the way back to San Francisco and fretting the possibility, unlikely, but still possibility, that then they got to mess with Steph Curry. Stay tuned.
I wish the American media would take a great look at the views of the people in Congress and find out, are they pro-America or anti-America?
Pat Kessler.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president's a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I can't trust Obama. He's an Arab.
Pat Kessler.
Tear down this wall.
I did nothing wrong at the Minneapolis airport.
Senator, you're no Jack Kennedy.
Pat Kessler. And now, to help Dan break down all the tough questions in politics, it's our own Pat Kessler Political Wonk.
I feel like a supermodel, except like times 10.
It's Channel 4's Pat Kessler with Dan Barreiro on the Fan.
It is indeed that time again. Sponsorship available. Don't forget, Bradshaw and Brian KFAN text line is open at 646-86. Garzi and I speculated earlier on whether the Wolves need to advance all the way to the NBA Finals for you to jump on the bandwagon. At what point will you pretend that you have been in the Wolves' corner basically ever since Jerome Pooh Richardson arrived in town many, many decades ago?
Pooh Richardson, what a callback!
Yeah, I mean, what do they have?
I'd say let's say game 2 of the final.
Finals, okay.
Of the finals.
So it is the finals.
It must
be
the finals.
To win this round, but then you still got to win the conference finals and then get back to me.
But I have great confidence. And that's the thing,
No, you don't. You just...
Of course I do.
That's the TV thing to say.
This is the bit.
When was it established in TV, local television, broadcast history, that... Is it like, are there meetings where they say, look, we care about ratings because that's part of our lifeblood, And one of the most important things we can do is when a local team is doing well, we have to pretend that we're all in.
That's interesting.
And invested. Yeah. Was there a series of meetings? Because that's been well established for decades in local TV that it's not enough to report on the local team. We must cheer.
We must support
the team and wear the gear, the whole bit, on the set. When was that established? Do you know?
That's actually an excellent question. I should probably try to find that out. Where they distribute the Twins jerseys, for example, to all of the anchors, and they're sitting at the Twins stadium, promoting it. Well, we both want the same thing, I think is what it comes down to.
Do
we both want everybody to watch. We both want a good story. The Twins want us there. We want to promote the Twins, who, by the way, I just saw this, won number 10. Number 10.
So they did win the nightcap of the doubleheader? 10 in a row for Mike Yo or for Rocco.
For Rocco.
Yeah, how about that?
So have they moved up at all? This is a thing.
Barely. The division is good now.
I know.
Yeah.
So, they won number 10. Cody Clemens, another boomer, another dong.
3-run dong. We had 3-run dongs in both games.
So, I mean, where'd that kid come from? Roger Clemens.
Roger Clemens, more if you want to be.
If that's the question.
Specific about it. Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. So how about that? Yeah. So everybody is. So we do that in television where we're very supportive. It's and I don't know why you don't support that. I mean, at the Star Tribune, did you not do the same thing?
There was the Homer Hanky. It's hard to argue with. The Homer Hanky seemed to be an endorsement of.
Thank you.
Shilling for the Twins.
And
some of us might have mocked the whole concept.
What is wrong with that?
Nothing?
Let me ask you, what is wrong with that?
It just feels slimy. It feels calculated.
The Homer Hanky part or the television part?
All of it.
I say let the joy flow.
Well, the joy is
just
fine.
Let it go, man. Who cares?
After the fact, I get the joy, not before. The joy should be provided by hell of a ball game. Did you see that comeback in Game 3? Unbelievable.
Well, I've always thought that the teams, the local teams, all of them are part of the fabric of this community. They are part of our collective memories, all of that. We see
I don't disagree
our present
with that.
and
of
our
course.
past through the prisms of the Minnesota Twins, of the Vikings. This is something that is one of the very, very few things in our
that can still unite us?
Yes. In this topsy-turvy
Very few.
world.
I think it's the only.
Yeah. Okay. So
I'm not even
again,
sure.
I flipped the question.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? I don't care. Do you care?
Yes, because I will tell you, this might shock you, but as a kid, little Danny Barreiro was utterly committed to the locals.
Absolutely.
Very cute sports teams in Chicago. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I will also tell you, I did not want Duckies and Bunnies for my coverage. I was a serious enough fan to say, no, how did they blow that 4-run lead in the ninth? Why can't the Bulls get past the Lakers? And I wanted honest commentary and coverage. I didn't want to be insulted. Well, no, it was great. They tried really hard. Wasn't interested in
let's separate this because, you listened to Jack Brickhouse.
I did.
Growing up on WGN.
Yeah, that's
greats,
different. Yeah.
Who was great.
Yes, and he was a cheerleader, but I accepted that role because he was hired by the team.
I would say that Corey Provis is right down the middle.
He's outstanding.
Yeah, he is incredible.
He's outstanding. He's very good.
All of these teams are out there doing this.
Yeah.
But the sports reporting is pretty down the middle.
It should be if it's not on TV.
I think it is. Sure it is. You think Rosen was not right down the middle?
No.
Absolutely.
Maybe
I will say yes, he was 100%.
Maybe
now, what I hear, and I've never, ever been in a press box. I've never been
That's not even true.
It isn't?
No. What are you talking about?
Box?
You've been in a press box a million times.
I have?
Yes, and you know it. So why would you say that?
I haven't. Well, here's the deal. So in the press box, when Sid is in there.
Yes. You were never in a press box with Sid.
I was never in a press box.
You never were in the Metrodome press box for a Twins game?
Never once.
Oh, come on.
Never once?
I don't believe you.
You're not the truth. No one can look as good as you. It's true.
God.
I've never been in the football press box, and I've always wondered about like the feed bag they put out.
It's nice. The Vikings feed bag is outstanding.
All right.
In the new era for sure.
And
it's almost too much food as far as I'm concerned. You can gain.
Oh no!
10
don't
pounds.
give me any more of this food.
No, it's true. You can gain 10
don't
pounds
give me this.
one afternoon.
So
eating the Twins feed, the Vikings feedback.
That's the dirty
Twins,
little
not
secret.
so much.
I have never been in a sports stadium press box.
All right, more on that later because we're running out of time too quickly. And I do want to get towards the end of the show to a little more Wolves, Golden State Warriors talk because there will be a chance to wrap up that series tonight and advance. 2 texts have come in on the same subject that you might find them contrasting. Okay. One reads, Pat better give Trump his props after his last week, plus if he has a shred of credibility. That was about 10 minutes after. I'm interested in hearing Pat's thoughts on Trump's Middle East bribery and personal enrichment tour. So we see there the range, I think, of perceptions
it's so good.
regarding Donald J. Trump and the week that he just had.
So what's the props, I wonder? I mean, is it the backing down on China? Is that it, where the stock market is back? And this is his 3, 4, 5D chess?
It's him acknowledging that he was beaten. And just not saying it that way. Yeah. I don't know what the props would be.
It's crazy. But I do want to say one thing about something that he is doing in the Middle East right now. I feel bad for him because he keeps stepping on his own touchdown call. The dude was able to arrange with Hamas the release of the last living American hostage. And that is incredible what he's done. So absolutely, I give props to President Trump for figuring out how to do that. And also trying to establish or reestablish diplomatic ties with Syria. I mean, these are all, I think, positive developments. But it's overshadowed by your favorite government, Qatar, giving
So is that the pronunciation? I've heard it pronounced Qatar back in the day. Now I think it's Qatar.
I've heard both of them just today.
And
on different networks.
We're going to accept.
I'm going to say Qatar today.
Qatar's fine. Let's see. Then we can be consistent. And so we're going to accept what is it? How much does it cost? 40 mil?
400
mil.
And now I'm hearing 450 today.
450. So basically a new presidential plane.
Yes.
Correct?
That is correct.
And this comes from the guy, because what people have said is, well, there's politicians at all levels have been bought off by Qatar forever. But then if your whole bid is, I'm going to drain the swamp and I'm above all this, then how do you just instead go to it with the 10th power with a straight face and not acknowledge you're playing then by the same rules that everybody else is in being bought and paid for?
Yeah, let's talk about this a little bit because you said something that I don't necessarily agree with, and that is that politicians have been bought off forever. I mean, sure, there are bribes and people are charged with that. There are cozy relationships, and after you leave office, I don't know exactly what that means. This is an apparent clear violation of the U.S. Constitution and the Emoluments Clause, which says a president cannot accept these gifts from foreign governments. This is so far beyond getting a gold sword, memorial sword. This is $400 million of the most lavish. Have you seen the pictures of this? It's incredible. It's like Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous airplane. It's the royal family's airplane.
Is this the same?
Incredible.
Is this the same country with which Trump and his people have done? Have got a new golf project, by the way. Is that a different country?
Yeah, though I think in Qatar they have a proposal for a 80-story Trump tower.
Right, and I
there's
thought
a golf
course
one
as well.
And
right?
another. It might be in the American. Or the Emirates.
Oh, I thought it was the one in Qatar,
I'm not
too.
sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Maybe it is. So I forgot all about but Biden. But Hunter Biden. I forgot about going to the impeachment of Joe Biden because of this. So here's the thing. I can hardly believe he's going to accept it, but he's, again today, doubled, tripled, quadrupled down, said, I'm going to take this plane. And when reporters ask him about it, his response is, you are so stupid. You should be embarrassed even to ask that question. But there are some serious questions here about it. If it's going to be Air Force One, it does need to be retrofitted, although President Trump, some rumors are that he will say, no, maybe it doesn't need to be. How many bugs are in there? Does it fit the standard for an Air Force One? This I did not know till very recently. We know that Air Force One, and Trump has a point, they're 30 years old. Why can't we get a new Air Force One that he tried to do 8 years ago?
What's wrong with this Air Force One?
It's 30 plus years old.
So what? But it's not like it's dangerous.
Tiny. I mean, look at the other countries, as Trump says. Okay. Look at what they're flying in. But here's the thing. Air Force One is, it must be built so that it survives a nuclear blast. It must evade missiles. This Air Force One can evade missiles. It is a flying, traveling command
You're talking
center.
about the new one?
No, the one
we have. So
that's the requirement.
So I'll ask you again, what's wrong with it?
It's the requirement for a new one. It's becoming outdated.
Okay,
it's 35 years old. Reagan, they changed it after Reagan, and now they should change it now. But what I'm going to say is that you remember that George Bush, W., flew around in Air Force One after 9/11.
I remember it well, yeah.
In the command center.
Yes.
So this is the largest gift to any president in American history. It could cost $1 billion to retrofit it to American standards for an Air Force One, which will be after Trump leaves office. But here's the thing about it. He could use it, and he wants to use it now, even though it's not retrofitted. Then it's going to be donated to the presidential library, where he will be allowed to use it for the rest of his life, if he wants. So, I don't know. You tell me.
Let me read you a couple things regarding, because this might, for me, at least clarify my own understanding regarding the history of Qatar. That's what we're going with today?
Yes, let's do that.
The lavish amount of money this postage stamp petrostate spends at every level of the U.S. lobbying and policymaking establishment is an open secret in the nation's capital. So when I'm talking about being bought and paid for, that's what I'm talking about specifically.
Okay, you bet.
Now, this is the part where it gets interesting. Qatar is happy to spend its money wherever it thinks it can curry favor, and Trump's administration, in particular, is stocked with people who, guess what, until recently, made millions working as registered foreign agents of the nation, including, just so happens, the Attorney General, Pam Bondi, who in her role as the head of the Department of Justice, has just officially cleared Trump's acquisition of the jet and saying there is no conflict of interest. This is the person who is saying nothing to see here, who has just spent many years making money from this same particular government.
She was registered as a lobbyist for them.
But the swamp is being drained in front of our eyes.
So it's an interesting piece of hypocrisy there. But she says, well, we've looked at everything. Qatar can do this. Here is one of the things that bothers me the most. So it wasn't that long ago. I'm old enough to remember when President Trump was against Hamas and all of this. Qatar is the main funder of the terrorist group Hamas, whose leadership lives where? In Qatar. In luxury
and safety.
Yes.
Correct.
So they have protected
the hypocrisy of that.
Yeah, they have protected it.
Which has been a discussion for years, regardless of who's president of the United States. But this was a thing ordinarily that's gotten the same people who are saying nothing to see here have been the ones who said, well, we got to address that particular contradiction, what you speak of regarding leadership, basically being the cock of the walk in that country.
And so if Qatar is protecting Hamas, and they say they do it, and they've given them $1.5 billion in the last 10 years, which helps Hamas survive in Gaza, and are they working to, maybe they arranged for the hostage to be released, good for you, we're happy for you, but this is a long-standing relationship. So there are so many different things wrong here that there are pretty high-level Republicans that are pretty nervous about this particular thing. And it's overshadowed what could be and what could have been, I think, a really successful trip for President Trump.
Do you know who Ben Shapiro is?
Absolutely.
He's a fairly, accomplished. He would be called a righty, correct?
Absolutely.
Ben Shapiro, maybe far right, depending on your point of view.
Conservative podcaster.
Exactly.
Yes.
He is among the individuals who said we'd be losing our minds if Biden did this. He's saying it. That's not a Democrat saying. This is and I think a guy who's actually favorable to Trump on a lot of things is saying it's a bad look, man. You whatever. If you there is such a thing as a high road in any of this environment. So my point is a lot of the criticism is coming from not the usual places that righties could write off as well. There go the Democrats, making it up as they go along. Shapiro is among those who said, this is not a good look.
And this is an unforced error.
Correct.
And what it does, again, I think Donald Trump in this particular Mideast trip has done a couple of really constructive things, and it could get better. But this is something that he has now dominated. This now dominates everything. And who knows where it goes. But as of today, and I haven't checked in the last hour, he says, I'm taking it.
Yeah.
I'm taking it.
That's correct.
I don't care what you say.
Let's do this. Speaking of hypocrisy, I want to talk about another bit of hypocrisy, and it's on your list. It's a new book that attempts apparently to lay out in rather disturbing detail the new details about former President Biden's declining mental acuity, as you put it in your notes. Because there's some I think some hypocrisy we need to acknowledge and discuss there as well. We'll do that more with Special K, who then later tonight you're on your way. Are you not? You're going to the Wolves game tonight.
Why wouldn't I? Was I able to get a ticket?
You could get a ticket. It wouldn't be cheap if it's beautiful people seats, but with your connections, I think you could probably get in pretty easily.
Minnesota, get ready for an unforgettable night. ZZ Top is bringing their legendary rock sound to the Ledge Amphitheater June 12th, and you could be there. You can check out our contest page to see how you could win tickets. KFAN.com, keyword contest there.
So stupid. You should be embarrassed even to ask that question.
I wonder what that question was. I don't even remember.
All right,
that's
here we go.
But a goodie. All right. So there's a new book that I don't know if it's out yet or not, or it's about to be. Jake Tapper, your guy from CNN, and Alex Thompson, and it lays out some new nuggets regarding the Biden, the mental state of the former president, et cetera, the degree to which the White House tried to cover it up. And we can all argue about which nugget is sweet is smoking gun and which is actually being exaggerated in terms of its importance. But there is a reckoning that along the line here needs to take place, and actually I think it includes Tapper, and maybe he's done this publicly, but a number of people have put together montages of interviews that Tapper did over the last 12 to 18 months, including one in which his viciousness with Dean Phillips could not have been more apparent.
One of us.
His arrogance about almost this patronizing tone. People, there's a lot of Democrats who don't like any of this that you're doing and don't have any respect for you the way you've done it. There is something a bit precious, I would say, about a member of the media who at least has the decency to acknowledge I got flummoxed as much as anybody, and I was not discerning enough. And so I have to acknowledge, if I'm going to make money off of a book now that lays out just how horrendous the situation was at the White House, do you not have to be a bit humble about the number of interviews you did that weren't good journalistic questioning, but mocked and ridiculed back when it was more fashionable to do this? Any suggestion that the president might have some significant issues?
There are some very interesting and important journalism questions here. And you're absolutely right. I remember that interview, and it was cringy to me that Dean Phillips was on the other side of that. I think, come on, man. He's doing what he thinks is right. And he's John the Baptist in the desert.
As it turns out.
Yeah. He's the only guy who had the courage to come out and say what everybody knew. The emperor has no clothes. Now, here is the thing. What are we supposed to believe? I think the American voters were ahead of the news media on this particular issue. They could see it with their own eyes, that the president was declining. And I'm not saying mental acuity, but I'm saying physically shuffling, taking tiny steps, bent over, was whispering more than people thought. But there was not a lot of pushback for the Democratic leaders who this book alleges were protecting him. Behind the scenes,
including the governor of this state.
The governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, went to Washington after that disastrous, consequential debate,
and said all is well, kind of,
and went to the White House to assess the situation. He went with a number of other governors, Wes Moore, Gavin Newsom, I think Hochul was there, Kathy Hochul from New York, and came out of the White House and said, we were with the president. There's nothing to see here. I believe the words he said. He walked out on the White House to the reporters and said, he seems sharp and fit, and he is fit for office. Now, to my knowledge, and maybe our listeners can correct me if I'm wrong, to my knowledge, he has never directly addressed that day and what he said. The book by Jake Tapper, and by the way, I'm not letting Tapper or any of these any reporters off the hook, but the book asserts that in that meeting with the governors, nobody pressed him, nobody asked him, nobody talked to him about his mental acuity.
The president,
his physical,
they didn't ask him, the president. Okay.
Nobody ever asked the president. So they come out there, and he lasted another 3-4 weeks, or a couple 3 weeks after that. So, it comes down to the point where he decides that he's going to run. He is declining physically, and he's meeting people, and they're shocked at what they're seeing. There's a long excerpt in the New Yorker. I don't know if you've read it. I commend this to people to read. And this is where George Clooney came out. That traitor, George Clooney came out again, said, we need to find somebody else, came out publicly.
He wrote the New York Times op-ed piece to that effect.
He did. Yeah. And to the people were just on him. Right. Well, it turns out that there was a fundraiser, and Joe Biden didn't know who he was. This is one of his biggest supporters. Well, I guess one of the most famous people in the entire world. And walks up to him and, thank you for your support. Well, this is George. Thanks, George, for your support. Didn't know who he was. Have we met? Type thing. Overall, this is going to be something that I believe that Democrats need to answer at the higher levels. I think there are people like Dean Phillips. There are a number of people who had a lot of questions about this. But I think in the next in the next presidential primaries, I think people need to be asked this.
Well, let me ask you this question, too, because we tend to be in a business where we go from 0 to 140 miles per hour in like 13 seconds.
That's correct.
So is it possible that, and so what I admit, part of what I worry about now in the feeding frenzy that has gone from how dare you suggest anything about President Biden to you think that was bad? Well, let me tell you this anecdote to where some stuff that I don't even think rises to the level of proving the point also becomes another smoking gun. I mean, I tend to think that we need to examine all of these stories on both ends carefully with precision. Because now, like I said, there's stuff being passed along that you go, well, is that really possible? Or is it now just easy to throw this stuff out because the frenzy is on and nobody wants to defend him anymore? I just want us to get to a place of precision.
It's a really good question, and we may never know the exact answer. I think alarm bells were going off when he was interviewed by the special prosecutor in the Hunter Biden case, where he wrote that he is a well-meaning man with a poor memory.
Yeah.
And people were horrified and angry about that.
That he was pressed on any of that, I thought.
Yeah, he was pressed over and over again and couldn't answer questions, simple questions. I think you're right. I think that's a really good point. There is going to be a feeding frenzy. President Biden is out in the last week or so trying to defend himself, pre-butting, a pre-buttal for the book. And I think he didn't do himself any favors by this. And he said he could have beaten Trump again. So it comes down to this, that I don't think that Donald Trump defeated Kamala Harris. Very controversial. Joe Biden defeated Kamala Harris. First by trying to hold on to power, holding on too long, and then refusing to get out. So it's ugly all around. I can't wait to read the rest of the book. I don't think there's a lot new here, but it just puts all of these into one place where people are saying this is what was going on. And Democrats are still frightened to say anything, to put their names on it. So still a lot of anonymous sources.
Your former colleague, Tom Hauser, earlier today, in our final minutes, I want to get to this at least briefly. We're going to have probably more time to get back to it next week. The Minnesota Senate just adjourned until 11 a.m. Thursday. The session must adjourn by midnight Monday, and all major spending bills and the tax bill remain in limbo while legislative leaders seek a budget agreement with Governor Tim Walz. This is sort of the way the game always plays. You've covered enough of these these legislative issues to know that a lot of times it goes the last minute and beyond. So that's not new. But are there any different parameters here about the way it's laying out that makes it less likely that a deal is going to get done, that we're going to be extended? Where are we in some of the major stuff here within the state?
Many times, and most of the time, I feel like the legislature is going to go right up to the last moment, and then they're going to figure out a way to get it done. This year, I think there are much different parameters. There is a time with Republicans and Democrats in the House. Republicans, for the first time, are able to flex their muscle and say, hey, we want this. We don't want what you have been giving us for the last number of years. There is hang-ups over Medicaid funding. Should Minnesota provide health care benefits for undocumented immigrants, undocumented people in the state, illegals, as the Republicans are calling them. Also, they want to get a handle on the fraud in the state of Minnesota. Both very important issues. Right now, I think they're running out of time. What day is today? Today is Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday.
They're adjourning till tomorrow. Nothing is near any agreement on taxes, on health care, on immigration, on fraud, public safety. There's nothing that has been really agreed on. So if they're adjourning till tomorrow, I think this is going to be a real problem, and there will be a special session. That's where we are in the legislature. So I don't know. It's been a long time, and Governor Walz is, the Republicans are complaining he's spending a lot of time on the road.
Governor, you mentioned in your notes, California Governor Newsom will eliminate health care coverage for, quote, illegal residents as well. I thought what I read is he was lessening them. Is that true? Is he proposing an elimination?
He's a phasing out of a lot of the benefits that they get. And in California, they pay $9.5 billion a year for health care benefits for people who are in the state illegally. In Minnesota, we agreed, the legislature, the Democratic-controlled legislature agreed a couple of years ago to offer health care insurance coverage to people in Minnesota who are here illegally. And Republicans say that we should not do that. Let me just throw this out there. The Minnesota Hospital Association says we need to do this because when you are not covered, you end up in emergency rooms. Then the hospitals have to cover it. We're getting cut out of Washington with Medicaid funding. This is going to be a disaster for rural Minnesota hospitals.
Enjoy the Wolves game. No, you're not going to go to the finals. That's right. You're going to make them work for a little bit more success.
If you were going tonight, I would sit next to you.
I'm not going. I went the other night because we were broadcast from there. Tonight, I will not be going, but I will be watching.
Were you in the press box?
TV. I was in a mat. There's
I'd
not
love
really
to go to the
press
press box. I'd love
at
to go
Target
to one.
Center.
Yeah, I'd love to go to a press box.
Well, I don't even know why you're pretending you've never been in a press box.
I've never been to a press box.
It makes no sense.
No, I mean, I've never been
Lester
invited.
Bagley has led you into the Vikings press box. I know that.
Well, I'm just saying that I've been in the luxury suites.
Oh, I see. So there's your distinction. That's very different.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
All right, man.
Channel 4's Pat Kessler, 5, 6, and 10, perhaps even later tonight. We'll come back with a couple final Wolves-Warriors thoughts in just a minute.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
It's brought to you by American Pressure.
Well, it's a great opportunity for your Minnesota Timberwolves as we return to the toy department late to just get serious about this thing and take care of business, right? Just get it done tonight. Take advantage of a team that you're better than. Get it done at home. Don't delay. Don't let the game come to you. And that's what's in front of this club. And I suggest, if you have a chance, to podcast our conversation with Michael Grady, which began about 3:15 or so. We went long. We went a good 30-plus minutes. And part of what we talked about yesterday is what he got into today via my question. It's a seize-the-moment opportunity that I think is beyond just winning this series. I believe there's an unusual opportunity having to do with heavyweight teams being eliminated, so that I think inevitably there's going to be a team that wins the whole thing this year where you go, well, I didn't think they were quite ready for that. I didn't really see that happening. But somebody still has to win the crown this year. And why not try to give yourself the best chance at doing that? And that starts by not extending this series any longer than necessary, ending it tonight, ending the nonsense, and then getting ready for a return to the conference finals against perhaps a more tired opponent. Because I think there's every reason to believe that Denver is going to extend this series with Oklahoma City to 7. Right now it's 3-2 Okie City after last night. Next game is in Denver. I like Denver's chances to even it. And so you look at Oklahoma City's clearly been the best team in the Western Conference through much of this, throughout the entire season. But their lack of playoff equity, I think, to me, means they're not slam dunk to win to get to the NBA Finals and win the whole thing. Similarly, Boston is about to go down. Cleveland already eliminated. So, again, the Knicks, interesting, dangerous. Pacers, very interesting. Maybe more dangerous than people realize, but not unbeatable. So what you have in front of you, and if it's Denver that comes back and wins the series with Okie City, you have a team that you know well and you've played well against as well. So as he told us, as Michael Grady told us, the assumption that the Wolves are going to be flirting with this every year, you don't know. Somebody gets hurt. Circumstances change. Somebody else rises back up. So when there's an opportunity right in front of you because of an unusual set of circumstances, don't wait. At least take your best shot at it, and that starts with ending this thing in 5 games, not delaying it, not turning it into a Wagnerian opera, and even perhaps tempting the basketball gods to say, well, maybe we will offer a miracle cure to Steph Curry, and then he might be available for Game 6. And then you find yourself in a position where you've lost some control of it. Just end the thing tonight. You're better than Golden State. Stay on track. And don't play to the type, which is occasionally, like a lot of good young teams, the Wolves have indeed played with their food. Also want to thank Johnny Athletic. He gave us some bonus time today. And Pat Kessler, heavily under siege via the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line as we speak. That beautifully comes with the territory, and we love every minute of the triggering. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. And we will talk to you tomorrow beginning at 3.